Welcome to Module 8, the 365 system. We're going to show you how throughout the course of your day, week, month, and year, you're going to be layering down what we call the stacking effect of marketing and different approaches to ultimately cultivate leads and create great customers. We're going to show you how the system works and ultimately how the system pays off. Now, the word system sounds kind of technical, but I'm not a computer programmer and I'm not asking you to be one. What we're talking about is the working by referral system. Why is a system so important? Well, as self-employed people, the hardest thing in the world is to be consistent. And the only way I've ever found to have myself and other small business owners be consistent is to have a system. The system creates routine, dependability, and that dependability builds trust, and trust is the source of where all referrals come from. And that's where we're going to dive in today. So it may not sound sexy, but let me tell you, the benefits of a system are very sexy. It's trust and referrals. So here's the definition of a system. It's a set of things working together as part of an interconnecting network. A set of things working together as part of an interconnecting network. I'm going to show you how this working by referral system works for you. And we have this lovely little acrostic here of the word system. It says, save yourself time, energy, and money. Save yourself time, energy, and money. Now in Module 10, when I'm helping you manage the world's most difficult person, we're going to be focusing on time, energy, and money and what you can do to control those three elements. But systems are very powerful. Michael Gerber, who wrote the best-selling book, The E-Myth Revisited, said systems run the business and people run the systems. Systems run the business and people run the systems. If this is your first go-around in owning your own business, let me say this to you. This book is probably the best small business book ever written. By the way, I have several small business books myself. This guy, he's actually from Carlsbad, right where we live here in San Diego. His name is Michael Gerber. And this book, it's Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. Very, very powerful book. I highly recommend it to you. So let's dive in right now to the three things I want to cover with you in this module. Number one, the stacking effect. I'm going to show you how the working by referral system is a layering process. Next, we're going to cover the system at work and how it works and how you need to work it. And then third, how the system pays off. I'm really trying to get you to commit to working the system the way it was designed. If you work the system the way it was designed, it will get you the results it was designed to get. Now remember, the three questions that every client has: can I trust you? Are you good at what you do? And do you care about me? Those three questions we're trying to answer with every aspect of what we do with our working by referral systems. Now at this stage, you're pretty familiar with our contact systems: mail, e-reports, calls. The care, personal notes, pop-bys, and video. And then the break-in bread, client parties, and the media. What we're going to show you right now is what's called the stacking effect. Let me give you a definition of it, and then let me show you how this thing works. And it'll really maybe change your thinking on what you're doing and maybe taking away some of your fears, okay? So the stacking effect is the accumulation of effort and activities that creates critical mass in your database. It's the accumulation of effort and activities that create critical mass in your database. And I'll be talking more about critical mass throughout the program. Ultimately, what you have to understand about this is when somebody's new and they think, if I do all these things to people I know, I'm just going to be bugging them to death. Or I'm going to be high pressure selling them. Or I'm going to make people who are my friends and family feel uncomfortable. This is completely the opposite of that, okay? And one of the reasons for it is you're coming from so many different ways. You're coming at things and interacting in so many different vehicles and so many different dynamics. So let me show you what it looks like. So let's say we start off here with the mail. Well, everyone in your database can get the mailings. The mailings are valuable. They have your letter. Your first mailing is, hey, I'm in the real estate business. And then here's this item of value, as we call it, this first mailing, where it's some really cool information that's very valuable to the recipient. Well, everybody can receive that. So that's the first layering effect. 2 weeks later, we know, we're saying on the 1st of the month, we send out the mail. On the 15th of the month, again, everyone again can get that e-report. So we're layering. And so view this as a three-dimensional view. We're looking from above. So imagine the database is on the bottom, and this is just layering on top. We layer the mail in first, and now the e-reports. There's similar design. There's a look and feel. There's a similar message, but different. And so now all of a sudden, it comes at it from a different angle. One, they get it in the mail. Next, they get it in their email. Then we're going to make some phone calls. Now, this is important to understand. This is your first test. If you're going to make phone calls, where do you start? Who do you call first? That's right, you'll start at the very beginning and work your way out. These are the calls you'll make. You won't call everybody in your database. You'll call a few. And again, we're layering, stacking effect. You've sent them the mail. You've sent them the e-report. You might not get to everyone with your calls. Now, we move on to writing personal notes. And I always like these in gold. And there's a pretty good idea. You'll write a note to everyone you've called. It's a pretty good idea. Then we'll do the pop-bys. And the pop-bys are very powerful, okay? And again, you'll start with your favorite people. Bring in a little something. It's a layering effect. They've already gotten the mail. They've already gotten the e-report. You might have put a call into them, let them know you're coming. You might pop by and then write them a personal note. It's a stacking effect. Layers on top of one another and coming from many different dimensions. People love this. And then maybe we'll do a little video. And the video, well, that can go to everybody. You can send it to everyone all together, or you can pick a few people to do an individual message for. Okay? Now, when we do that on top of the breaking bread and client parties, now we really start to have something going. And so we see that we're stacking one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. It's unique. A note is not the same as a mailing. A mailing is not the same as an e-report. A pop-by is not the same as a phone call. So you're coming from many different dimensions. Why is this so important? Well, again, many agents feel like, oh, I don't want to bug folks. I don't want to be high pressure. Well, this is certainly not that. But there's another problem. There's another problem, and I want to share with you some sales statistics. And it's in regards to following up. So 47% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect at all. 25% of salespeople make a second contact. 12% of salespeople only make 3 contacts and then stop. And then only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. Well, when we do a mail and an e-report, a call, a personal note, and a pop-by or a video, we're certainly doing more than that. Now, where do the sales actually come from? 2% of all sales are made on the first contact. What did we say? That means 53% of all salespeople don't follow up even a second time. So David got a chance at 2% of all the business. 3% of sales are made on the second contact. 5% of sales are made on the third contact. 10% of sales are made on the fourth contact. And here's the magic number. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. Now, just calling somebody 12 times, that's hardcore. But sending them something in the mail, sending an e-report, making a call, writing a personal note, doing a pop-by, doing a video, taking someone for a lunch, okay? Using text messaging or social media messaging. Boom, 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 boom. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. There we go again, the 80-20 rule. You're being trained to be part of that 20% of the best that do what it takes. I learned this without having sales statistics very early on. So I showed you my picture where I started my real estate career. I started my real estate career from a hospital bed, got my license, got into the business, did some training. My very first week in the business, I did an open house for another agent, okay? This lady walks through the house on a Sunday afternoon. Wasn't a lot of activity going on. She walks in. She didn't look like, she just looked like an older lady, a grandma of some sort. She had a little, looked like sauce on her blouse. She walked in. She didn't look like she had any money. And she asked me a couple of questions. I knew some answers. And then because I was new and it wasn't my listing, she asked me a couple of questions. And I said, you know, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm new and I'm enthusiastic and I'm fired up. And so I have all the answers you need back at the office. I'll get them for you and I'll follow up with you. Okay? Just like I'm teaching you. So Monday morning, I find the information that this lady was looking for. I follow up and I call her. She answers the phone. She goes, "Hi, this is Anna. Anna, this is Brian. We met at the open house. You had a few questions. I didn't have the answers. I want to follow up with you." There was a pause, like an uncomfortable pause, like I felt like I'd done something wrong. And then she says this in a very quiet way. She goes, "They never follow up." I go, "I'm sorry?" She goes, "They never follow up." I said, "Who?" "Real estate people. They never follow up." I said, "Well, I'm following up right now." She goes, "Yes, you are." She goes, "I want to buy my grandson a house. I already know the house I want to buy. It's not the one you were holding open on Sunday. Here's the address. Here's what I want to pay. Do an analysis for me, and then come on over to my house tonight and represent me." Now, by the way, I showed you the car that I had to borrow to go to Anna DeLeon's home. I went to that home. She was a sophisticated real estate investor. I was a rookie agent. I'm going to be honest with you. She was helping me as I was filling out parts of the contract. We put an offer. We get it accepted. Anna DeLeon, before she passed away, purchased 11 homes for her 11 grandchildren. And I represented her on every single one. I was actually named in her will to represent her estate for the purposes of liquidating all her real estate assets. That was my very first client. You can say, "I was lucky." Boy, Brian, you walked into that one. Here's what happened. I followed up with Anna. She said, "They never do." I was a brand new baby agent. She knew that. She didn't care. She saw my willingness and effort to do what it took. And by the way, I stayed in contact with her. I sent her lots of emails and mailings, and I did a lot of calls over the years, and I always popped by. I found out she liked these one type of burritos from this little restaurant near Coronado, and I would drive over there special, and I would pop by for her and her family. Okay? I knew what she was all about. And wasn't I lucky that she did 11 transactions with me? No. Over time, I cultivated that relationship. She trusted me, and I did business with her. By the way, I did business with her children and some of her grandchildren who later moved out of state. This is a system that works. It builds relationships. It builds consistency. It doesn't bug people because it comes from so many different applications, all right? And it's a stacking effect. So let's just talk a little bit about the system at work itself. On the contact side, again, we want you to send the mailing on the first of the month to your entire database. That's when you're working the system perfectly, all right? Now, however you started the program, on whatever module we tell you to send out the mailing, send that out. But after this course ends, what you want to be doing is the first of the month is the mailing, and then the 15th is going to be the e-report. So make up those follow-up phone calls. So follow up after you've sent out your mailings. That's where you call behind. And then send the e-report on the 15th. So that's our contact. We mail, we e-report, we call. Beautiful. On the care side, you send a note to everyone you've called. It's just a great idea. You call someone, you send them a note. Now I'm going to give you some numbers. I'm asking you to do up to 7 pop-bys a week, okay? That's a good number and not an overwhelming number, okay? Plan it out. You can lay it out in the Referral Maker CRM. It can tell you who to pop by. It works with the Maps app, so you can lay it all out, so it makes it real efficient, all right? And then once a month, I want you to send a video to your entire database with an update, with a little, here's what's going on in real estate, and we'll be providing you that information to make those videos very, very practical. On the community side, you want to set up 1 client breakfast and 1 lunch each week, right? So there's a great book that says never eat alone. Well, we're just saying, hey, once a week for breakfast or a coffee or once a week for lunch. And then bring a business owner to breakfast, very specifically. And again, it can be a coffee also, but bring a business owner. So you have someone in your database, it's a breakfast or lunch, and then someone who owns a business. Just every week, I meet with one of them. And then the last little piece here, community, is to plan out your social media posts. Have a little plan to it. Now, we'll be giving you the do's and don'ts of social media. We'll be sharing with you some cool tips on that, but I'm just putting it in right here. So you want to plan it out, okay? Contact, care, community, the stacking effect. Here's how the whole system pays off. It's called critical mass. I used to kid around, is that a priest with a bad attitude? You know, what does critical mass mean? Well, there's in the science, it can be the point at which something explodes, right? quantum physics, if you will. But this is the point at which a brand becomes self-sustaining and no longer needs additional investment to remain economically viable. The point at which a brand becomes self-sustaining. Let me give you an example of where this system starts to pay off. I would get a referral, and I would eventually get a referral from not just one person, but 2 or 3 people who were in a similar community. It might be someone in a church I knew who was a client of mine, and the next thing you know, they refer me to another person. Well, eventually I got to the point where someone in that same church would mention they were thinking about buying or selling a home, and they'd hear from 2 or 3 people, you need to talk to Brian. And so that's when the critical mass starts to take place. That's when your name becomes synonymous in the mind of your database with real estate and great real estate service. A great example of this critical mass is growing up in Ireland. My mother never, ever used the word vacuum cleaner. She only ever called it a Hoover. You know, I didn't know until I came to America that Hoover was a brand name. We'd say, use the Hoover. And I say to my kids, grab the Hoover. Dad, we don't have a Hoover. We have a whatever. No, that's the Hoover. In my mind, it's Hoover. That's critical mass. And another example of this would be Kleenex. People say, can you pass me a Kleenex? Even though it's a tissue they're asking for. But tissue and Kleenex have become synonymous. It's critical mass. Another example of that is FedEx. FedEx has become synonymous with overnight. People say, can you overnight it to me? No, they say, can you FedEx it to me? And you might overnight it to them through a different service, but you'd still use the word FedEx. Critical mass. Critical mass. And that's what we're trying to establish in our database, that these people right here, we know that each one of these people know 285 people. And we're trying to create critical mass with each one of the people we have so that when someone in their 285 mentions real estate, they think of us and know how to refer us. So here's level 1 in critical mass. Here's the first goal to get to. The first goal is 100 people in your database. That's what we're trying to get you to do in building up your database who receive the 365 system. That'll produce on average $100,000 in commissions. Does that sound like a good number to you? Does that sound better than the $8,900 that the typical realtor makes in less than 2 years in the business? Why can I say things like this? Because we've trained so many people in this system. If you will take it on board, and if you will work the system and trust the system, the results will come. So 100 people in your database, given the 365 system, will produce about $100,000, depending on your average sales price. The next level is to take not just 100 people, but now to get 100 A's in your database. And 100 A's in your database who receive the 365 system usually produces about 30 transactions a year. And again, depending on your average sales price, that can go up and down. So the first level is 100 people. The next level is 100 A's. How many people might you have to go through to get to 100 A's? You might have to get through 300 to get to 100 A's, okay? What I can tell you is that this little system works like a charm, but you've got to work the system. And it doesn't matter where you're starting from. But Brian, I'm in a bad situation. Brian, I just lost my job. Brian, I just lost my spouse. Brian, I just had this happen. I thought, you need to understand, we've seen it all. And as a coaching company, we've put our arms around people who've come from all kinds of different circumstances. And I'm going to share continually these stories with you. And I have one of these to share with you right now. She's one of my favorite people. Her name is Joanne Zabrowski. And she's been with us for over 20 years. And I tell you these stories of people who've been with us for 20 years because I want you to think of this as a career. And you want to get off to this good start, this very important 100 days. And then what can happen for you? Joanne Zabrowski, when we met her, she got into real estate. She was new to the area. She had just gone through a divorce. Okay, she adopted a couple of kids. She was $150,000 in debt to credit cards and the IRS. Okay, and really under pressure. She did what the real estate business told her to do, cold call and door knock. Well, she had nowhere else to go. So she did those things, but she hated those things. Well, we started teaching her this system, and she took it on board. And she works this system beautifully. And today, she's one of the top agents in her area. And she lives a phenomenal life, but has a great business. And it has allowed her to be fully present for those girls of hers and be fully present for her clients and to live the kind of life she always hoped she could. I want to share this story with you. I hope it'll encourage you. Maybe your circumstances aren't great today, but they can become great. Let's take a look at Joanne Zabrowski's good life story.
So I've been in real estate for about 21 years, and I got into real estate because I felt I was good at sales. When we moved here, we sold our house and we had a realtor do it, and I said, that looks so easy, and I thought, I can definitely do that. We had been married for 15 years, couldn't have kids, and we took a trip to China. We adopted 2 girls, Kristen and Sarah, a year apart. Came out here, I didn't know a soul, got my license. The only thing you can do is cold call. It was a 7-day-a-week, 8 to 10 hours a day, and it was hard. It was not a nice life at all. In about the year 2000, I got divorced. He left us with no money. He left us in debt with IRS and credit cards of $150,000. During that time, I kept thinking there has to be a better way to do this, and I just wasn't happy. So then I went to a half day that Brian had, and I just said, this is it. Shortly after that, I signed up for coaching, even though I didn't have much money, but I said, this is what I got to do.
When Joan came to us, we worked on her business plan. She had some random thoughts and ideas what she wanted to do with her business, but we put together a plan that made sense for her and set some goals.
I just knew that I had to get all this debt paid off. It took me about 5.5 to 6 years to get that paid. I paid off everything. My coach was so helpful in getting me through that, and he kept telling me that I could make it through, and I just had to go out there and keep working.
We really utilize her great work ethic. She sets goals with personal notes, and she wants to achieve 50 personal notes in a given month, and she does a whole lot more even beyond that. She had written over 1,200 personal notes. That has a lot of impact on people.
I think by doing the calls, notes, and pop-bys and the events, I think I've kind of created a little community within my client base. So I have a whole basket of notes that I've gotten in my office, and I get notes daily because people are just thanking me. And I just feel so good that I can brighten someone's day.
My mom is my biggest role model by a long shot. She works tirelessly, and she's so selfless in everything she does, and she's always really positive. She's always pushed me to do what I want to do, and I know she loves what she does. She's so good at it.
So this is a letter that my daughter wrote. So she says, I'm grateful for all the little things you do for me and for all the good times.
Remember all those little notes you used to leave in my lunchbox?
I still have most of those tucked away somewhere.
And all those times we went to St. Paul and played soccer in the rain, or we stayed up late talking.
Those always stand out to me as some of the very best times.
I'm so fortunate and lucky to have parents who are always there for me, who understand and will help me out and cheer me on no matter what.
I'm Joanne Zabrowski, and I'm living the good life.
Great stuff. I love stories like that. And your story can be a story just like that, no matter what your circumstances are today, no matter what you have or don't have in your bank account, no matter what's going on in your life. And it's why I love the real estate business. And it's also why I'm so worked up about you working the system that's being created. This system works. Now, if you want to create your own system, God bless you. But if you want to be successful in the most efficient way possible, follow the system. Learn to lean into the stacking effect and do the calls and the notes and the pop-bys. Contact, care, and community. Get a chance to see how it actually will save you time, energy, and money, because it's a system, and the system becomes consistent. And then ultimately, this system can pay off for you by creating critical mass in your database and ultimately giving you a chance to make the kind of living you want, to kind of have the type of relationships you want with your customers, and to have the kind of relationship you want with your family and your life. Now, how are you going to get there? Well, everybody wants to get to heaven. No one wants to die to get there. Education without implementation is merely entertainment. Here are your training action steps. Call 5 people in your database per day to follow up on your first mailing. Write 3 personal notes per day. Pop by 5 people in your database this week. Add 5 people to your database this week and meet one of your favorite people for breakfast or lunch this week. It's going to be a full week. It's System 365. You're up and running. Let's get after it. In Module 9, I'm going to share with you how to become a time management wizard so you can handle all these activities. We'll see you then.